Here's something most financial advisors won't admit to you. Your retirement plan is wrong, not because your advisor made a mistake, but because every retirement plan is wrong in the moment that it's created. And that might sound a bit discouraging, but it's actually the key to building a retirement strategy that can work. I've worked with over 70 clients approaching or in retirement, and the ones who succeed aren't the ones with the perfect plan. They're the ones that understand that retirement plan is a living, breathing process, not a one and done calculation. In this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain on some of the most understood aspects of retirement planning, from Monte Carlo simulations to Roth IRA conversions, to whether it even matters how your financial advisor dresses. Let's get into it. Number one is the truth about Monte Carlo analysis. If you're not familiar with Monte Carlo simulations run thousands of hypothetical scenarios for your retirement. They take your current savings and your expected spending, and they simulate what might happen across different market conditions in good years, bad years, and everything in between. At the end, you'll get a probability, something like you have an 85% chance of not running out of money during retirement. Now, here's the good part about Monte Carlo analysis. It's far better than the old school approach of assuming a flat rate of return every single year. Real markets don't work that way. Some years you're up 20%, some years you're down 30%, and the sequence of those returns matters enormously in retirement. These simulations capture randomness, and it gives you a much more realistic picture of what could actually happen with your account. But here's the bad part, and this is where I see people get into major trouble during retirement. People treat that probability like it's a guarantee. They see 90% success rate, and they think that they're set. But that number is based on assumptions. Assumptions about inflation, about market returns, and about how long you'll live, which can dictate how much you could actually spend out of your account. Changing those assumptions, that 90 can become 70 pretty quickly. And here's the ugly truth about Monte Carlo. It can give you false confidence or false fear, depending on how it's presented. I've seen people panic because their plan showed a 75% success rate, when in reality, that might be perfectly reasonable given their flexibility and adjusted spending. You might have a 95% success rate on your initial plan, but unfortunately, things don't always go to plan. The point is, don't chase a specific number. We have to understand that there are a range of outcomes and different levers that you can pull when things don't go as planned. This brings me to my next point, and it's something I tell every single client that I work with. Your retirement plan is wrong. My plan is wrong. Every financial plan ever created was wrong, and that's okay. Here's why. A retirement plan is built on assumptions. Assumptions about the future, what inflation will be over the next 30 years, what the stock market will return, how long you'll live, what healthcare changes there are, and what tax laws actually make adjustments. No one knows the answers to these questions. We make educated guesses, but they're still guesses. So the goal isn't to create a plan that predicts the future perfectly. That's impossible. The goal is to create a plan that's adaptable, one that can be adjustable and flex as reality unfolds. This is where I see a lot of advisors fall short. They create this beautiful plan, hand it to their client, and they don't revisit it for years. But life doesn't stand still. Markets shift, tax laws change, your health changes, and your spending habits change. The clients who tend to do well in retirement are the ones who treat their plan as a starting point, not an ending point. We meet regularly, we stress test the plan, and we make adjustments as everything changes in life. It's not about being perfect on day one. It's about being responsive every day after. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, the psychology of actually spending the money you've saved. This might sound strange, but one of the hardest parts of retirement isn't saving money, it's spending it. How does that make sense? I've worked with clients who have more than enough money to live comfortably for the rest of their lives and possibly the next generation, but they're still anxious about every purchase they make. They've spent 30 or 40 years in accumulation mode, watching that balance grow, celebrating when it goes up, stressing when it goes down, and everything in between. And then retirement comes, and suddenly they're supposed to flip a switch and start drawing it down. That's psychologically very difficult. And there's actually research that shows this. Studies show that many retirees significantly underspend relative to what they could spend safely. They're so worried about running out of money that they deprive themselves of experiences and comforts they've earned. So how do I try and help clients get comfortable with spending? First, we establish guardrails. We figure out what your floor is, the minimum you will need to cover essentials on a monthly basis, and what your ceiling is, the maximum you could spend in a great year. Having those boundaries tends to reduce anxiety because when you know what dollar amounts you're operating with, you stay in a safe range. Second, we separate needs from wants. Your core expenses might be funded by Social Security and a pension, which means your retirement portfolio is really there for the extras. That reframe can make spending feel much less risky. And third, we give permission. Sometimes people just need their advisor to say, yes, you can take that trip. Yes, you can help your grandkids. You've planned for this. Here's a lighter topic, but one that came up recently. Should you care how your financial advisor dresses? I'm curious because I'm recording this video in a black t-shirt, but it's something that's very neutral and something that doesn't bother most clients. But it depends what signals you. My honest answer? It depends on what it signals to you. Some people feel more comfortable with an advisor in a suit and tie. It signals professionalism, seriousness, attention to detail, where many other people find that off-putting. They'd rather work with someone in business casual who feels much more approachable and down to earth. Here's what I actually think matters. Does your advisor's presentation match their confidence and their values? If someone shows up wearing a $3,000 suit but can't explain how a Roth conversion works, that might be a problem. If you're working with an advisor in jeans and a t-shirt but as a certified financial planner that could help you through complex tax problems, I think that says a lot too. The clothing is surface level. What you should really be evaluating is whether your advisor listens to you, whether they explain things clearly, and whether they have the credentials and experience to back up their recommendations. That said, I think there's something to be said for dressing in a way that shows respect for the relationship. When I meet with clients, I want them to know I take this seriously, but I also want them to feel comfortable, not intimidated. I'm a real person just like you, and at the end of the day, the most important thing is comfort and confidence when it comes to my relationship. So my take, focus on substance over style, but pay attention to whether the style reflects the substance. Now back to the seriousness. Let's shift to something much more technical. Income-related monthly adjustment amount. If you're not familiar, IRMA, or income-related monthly adjustment amount, is essentially a surcharge on your Medicare premiums that kick in when your household income exceeds certain thresholds. We're talking hundreds or even thousands of dollars per year in extra premiums. So the question I get from clients is, should I do everything possible to avoid IRMA? My answer is it depends. Here's when avoiding IRMA might make sense. If you're right on the edge of a threshold and a small reduction in income would help you keep below it, that's worth considering. For example, maybe you can take a Roth conversion strategy or harvest some capital losses to stay under the line. But here's when paying some IRMA might actually be the right call. Let's say you have a large traditional IRA and you're trying to do Roth conversions to reduce future required minimum distributions and leave tax-free money to your heirs. If you limit your conversions just to avoid IRMA, you might save a few $100s in Medicare premiums but end up with a much larger tax burden down the road. In other words, IRMA is a short-term cost. Tax diversification is a long-term benefit. Sometimes it makes sense to pay the surcharge now to put yourself in a better position for the next 20 years. The key is running the numbers and understanding the trade-offs. There's no universal answer, and it depends on your specific situation. Which brings us to number 6, renting versus owning in retirement. This is a question that I get a lot from clients, and it really depends on your own circumstances. And when you ask me if it matters, the answer is absolutely. There's this traditional idea that you need to own your home outright right before you retire, and for some people, that does make sense. If you've paid off your mortgage and your housing costs are low, that can provide real stability during retirement. But owning a home also comes with costs that people underestimate. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance repairs, these things add up and they tend to increase over time. A new roof can cost you $20,000, HVAC systems fail, things break, life is expensive. Renting eliminates a lot of the unpredictability when it comes to housing costs. And if something breaks, it's the landlord's problem. Renting can also provide flexibility. Maybe you want to try living in a different city for a few years. Maybe you want to downsize without the hassle of selling a house. Maybe you want to be closer to family but don't want to commit to buying in a new area. From a pure financial standpoint, there's research suggesting that renting and investing the difference can sometimes lead to a similar or even better outcomes than owning, especially in high-cost markets. The key is to factor in your personal situation, your health, your family, your lifestyle preferences, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer, but don't let anyone tell you that renting in retirement is automatically a mistake. It's a legitimate choice. Those are some of the most important and most misunderstood aspects of retirement planning. From understanding Monte Carlo analysis to accepting that your plan will need to evolve and actually making the decisions that help you become comfortable spending your retirement money. Now you have a clearer picture of how retirement planning really works and why it's more important to consider adaptability than perfection. But here's the reality. Implementing these concepts effectively takes expertise. It takes discipline, and it takes ongoing attention. You need to spend countless hours understanding the nuances of IRMA, thresholds, timing Roth conversions correctly, and evaluating whether renting or owning makes sense for your situation. And even with all that research, without experienced guidance, I can almost guarantee that you'll miss out on opportunities throughout retirement. So if you'd like help creating a retirement strategy that's actually built for the real world, one that adapts as your life changes, click the link in the description to book a call with me. We'll talk about your specific situation and see if I can help you build the kind of plan that gives you the confidence and flexibility for whatever comes next. I'll see you in the next video.